The first thing you notice isn't the sound, it's the smell. A burnt plastic coppery sweet stench that coats the back of your throat. It's the smell of a city's nervous system frying in its own casing. The power grid, that fragile web of assumptions you've built your entire life on, has finally torn. The silence that follows is a lie. It's not silence. It's a void where the hum of civilization used to be. The hum of refrigerators, of air conditioners, of distant traffic. Now, the sounds are sharp, distinct, and terrifying. A single scream down the block. The shattering of glass 2 streets over. The sirens start. A chorus of rising and falling panic, but you notice they're not converging. They are scattered, disorganized, and soon, one by one, they will fall silent too. And in your tidy suburban home, you smile. Because you're ready. You've got the gear, the plan. You're the gray man. You believe you will simply disappear into the chaos. You imagine yourself shrugging on your nondescript gray jacket and your perfectly balanced bug-out bag, the one with the muted colors and no tactical mull webbing. You think you'll walk out your door and just blend. You'll move through their panicking crowds like a ghost. Your face a neutral mask of practiced indifference, your steps measured and calm. You'll follow your pre-planned route, a neat red line on a laminated map, taking the service alleys and the old railway lines everyone else has forgotten. You see yourself as a quiet professional from the movies, a master of urban evasion slipping through the cracks of a collapsing world while the unprepared masses devolve into a shrieking mob. You are the signal, they are the noise. And you believe your survival is a simple matter of not drawing attention. What a comforting and utterly fatal delusion. Let's have a reality check. You think your gray jacket is a cloak of invisibility? That your calm demeanor amidst a citywide panic attack makes you blend in? You fundamentally misunderstood the science of perception. Your brain, and the brains of the desperate people around you, are not cameras passively recording data. They are hypervigilant anomaly detection engines, fine-tuned by millions of years of evolution to do one thing above all else: spot what is different. When the baseline behavior of a crowd is frantic, panicked, and erratic, the single individual moving with calm, purposeful strides is not invisible. He is a lighthouse. He is the one gazelle trotting calmly while the rest of the herd sprints from the lion. Who do you think the predator notices first? This isn't psychology. It's neurology. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, fires in response to contrast. You, in your infinite preparedness, are the ultimate contrast. Every measured step, every controlled glance screams, I am not like you. I have a plan. I have resources. Now imagine it's day 3. The initial shock has worn off and been replaced by a gnawing, desperate hunger. The family down the street with 2 small children has been out of water for 24 hours. The father, a perfectly reasonable accountant a week ago, now sees you walking down the center of the street. He doesn't see a gray man. He sees a man with a full backpack, a man who isn't limping, a man who doesn't have the hollow-eyed look of thirst. He sees a walking, talking cache of supplies. He gathers a few neighbors. They are not evil men. They are fathers and mothers, driven by the most powerful biological imperative of all, the survival of their offspring. They approach you, not with malice, but with a terrifying logical calculus of need. Your carefully practiced low-profile movements are meaningless now. You can't blend with the group, because you are the resource they need to form a group in the first place. You thought you were a ghost. They see you as a piñata. The solution is not to be the quiet man in the loud crowd. The solution is to become part of the noise. The true gray man doesn't just wear gray, he acts gray. He hunches his shoulders. He looks confused and scared, just like everyone else. He takes a discarded, empty grocery bag and carries it with a convincing air of pointless desperation. His route isn't a pre-planned line. It is a deep, instinctual knowledge of the urban terrain, knowing which areas to avoid and when. He moves with the herd, not through it. He understands that true invisibility is not about being unseen, but about being unremarkable, about conforming so perfectly to the chaotic baseline that the predator's eyes slide right over you. You don't need a neutral-colored jacket. You need to look just as pathetic and unprepared as everyone else, while concealing the tools and the mindset that will actually keep you alive. Forget being a ghost. Your first task is to be a convincing actor in a tragedy, and your role is refugee number 7 Tharsendurinu 42. Now let's talk about your bag. The bug-out bag. The holy grail of prepper consumerism. You've spent thousands on it. It's a masterpiece of ballistic nylon, military-grade stitching, and modular attachment points. It has a hydration bladder, a solar charger, a tactical tomahawk, and enough 550 paracord to rappel down a skyscraper. You think this bag is your lifeline. You think it makes you look like a survivor. Here's the mockery. That bag is not a survival tool. It is a loot box. It is a flashing neon sign that says, "I have antibiotics, high-calorie rations, and water filtration." In a crowd of desperate, starving people, you are not a hard target. You are a supply drop with legs. You think the tactical's black or coyote tan color makes it low profile? You are delusional. To the urban predator, the gang member, the desperate father, the opportunist, that specific aesthetic screams high value. They know what 511 pants look like. They know what a molla-webbing system is. They watch the same YouTube channels you do, but they watch them to learn what to steal, not what to buy. Let's get into the science of visual salience. Human vision is prioritized. We don't see everything. We see what matters. In a chaotic environment, the brain filters for affordances, objects that offer an opportunity for action. A smooth, clean, bulging backpack affords resources. A tactical bag affords weapons and tools. Both are magnets for attention. But a dirty, scuffed, half-empty diaper bag, a reusable grocery tote that looks like it's about to tear, a trash bag slung over a shoulder, these afford trash. They afford nothing of value. The brain skips over them. They are visually loud in their ugliness, but conceptually invisible, because they signal zero utility to a predator. The horror is what happens when you don't understand this. You are walking through a checkpoint or a bottleneck. Someone grabs your strap. Not to kill you, just to see what you have. You resist. The strap holds because it's military grade. Now you are tethered to your attacker. The situation escalates. A knife comes out. You are stabbed for a bazonet that contains a water filter you haven't even used yet. And as you bleed out on the pavement, the last thing you see is someone unbuckling your expensive ergonomic waist strap and walking away with your life's work. Your preparation didn't save you. It painted a target on your back. The solution? Aesthetic degradation. Your gear needs to look like garbage. Buy the expensive, high-quality backpack if you must, for the comfort and durability, but then ruin it. Cover it in a rain cover that you have intentionally stained with coffee, mud, and spray paint. Duct tape patches over perfectly good fabric. Dangle a dirty stuffed animal from the zipper. Put your high-tech gear inside a beat-up laundry bag, and carry that. If you must wear a backpack, wear a Jan Sport that looks like it survived high school in the 90s. Better yet, don't look like a traveler at all. Look like a scavenger. Push a shopping cart with one wobbly wheel filled with seemingly random junk. Old blankets, cardboard, with your actual supplies hidden at the bottom. People don't rob the homeless guy mumbling to himself. They rob the guy who looks like he's bugging out. Now let's look at your route. You have a map. You've marked the danger zones. You plan to stick to the shadows, the alleyways, the industrial train tracks. You think you're Sam Fisher. The mockery? Everyone else has the same idea. The path of least resistance is a trap. The secret routes are just the secondary choke points. You think the alleys are empty? The alleys are where the people who already live on the streets are. They know that terrain better than you know your own kitchen. You are walking into their living room uninvited. And those train tracks? They are open, exposed corridors with zero cover, perfect for ambushes or simply being spotted from a mile away. The science here involves lines of drift. In geomorphology, water follows the path of least resistance. In human geography, crowds do the same. When the main streets clog, the overflow naturally spills into parallel side streets, then alleys. The gray man escape route isn't about finding a path no one is using. It's about understanding fluid dynamics. If the main artery is blocked, the pressure builds until it ruptures into the capillaries. You need to predict where the flow won't go. The horror is getting boxed in. You take an alley to avoid a riot. Halfway down you realize it's a dead end, or worse, it opens into a courtyard where a local gang has set up a toll booth. You turn around, but the crowd has filled the entrance behind you. You are trapped in a concrete canyon with people who have already shed the veneer of civilization. The walls are too high to climb. The panic sets in, not because of the threat in front of you, but because of the realization that you walked yourself into a cage. The solution is counterintuitive. Go where the environment is hostile to movement. Don't look for the easy path. Look for the hard one that is still technically passable. This might mean moving through buildings rather than between them. Learn how to key bump a commercial lock or use a shove knife to bypass latch guards. Cut through the basement of an office complex. Move through a storm drain, if you understand the weather risks. And we'll get to the microbiology of that nightmare later. The true escape route is vertical and internal. It's hopping fences through a series of backyards rather than walking the street. It's knowing that the maintenance store behind the strip mall is usually unlocked because the smokers use it. It's not a line on a map. It's a series of micro decisions based on the immediate architecture of exclusion. You go where you aren't supposed to be, not where it's easy to walk. Now let's talk about the greatest liability you carry. It's not your heavy pack or your out-of-shape body. It's the supercomputer in your pocket, your smartphone. You think it's your lifeline. You have offline maps downloaded. You have a survival PDF library. You have a way to check the news until the cell towers die. You think the flashlight app is a valid tactical tool. Here's the mockery. You're carrying a tracking beacon that screams your location, habits, and identity to anyone with a rudimentary scanner. In a true collapse, digital silence is deafening. The airways won't be empty. They will be monitored. And even if the grid is down, that glowing rectangle in your hand is a lighthouse in the dark. You're hunched over in a dark alley, face illuminated by the blue light of a screen, checking a map that hasn't updated in 48 hours. You look like a victim. You look like someone who is lost. You look like someone who is distracted. The science is simple optics and radio frequency dynamics. In a low-light environment, which a city without power becomes instantly, the human eye is drawn to contrast. A 500 nit smartphone screen in a zero-blux alleyway is visible from hundreds of meters away. It ruins your natural night vision, which takes 30 to 45 minutes to fully adapt. Road-ups and regeneration. Every time you check your phone, you reset that clock to zero, blinding yourself to the threats in the shadows. Furthermore, if local networks are being monitored or spoofed by bad actors, stingray devices, your phone is constantly handshaking, trying to connect, broadcasting its unique I. You are digitally shouting, "I am here," every few seconds. The horror is visceral. You're navigating a blackout. You pull out your phone to check your position. The light flares. A group of looters 3 blocks away sees the flash. They don't know who you are, but they know you have a working device, a commodity now worth more than gold, and they start moving toward the light. You, meanwhile, are night blind, staring at a screen. You don't see them until they are 5 feet away. The last thing you feel is the phone being ripped from your hand, followed by the cold reality of a pipe hitting your skull. The solution? Analog redundancy, paper maps. But not just any map. A laminated street map you have annotated before the crisis. Mark the water sources, the choke points, the no-go zones. Learn to read it with a red lens flashlight that preserves your night vision and has a much shorter visual signature. If you must carry electronics, they go in a Faraday bag to block signals. You turn them on only inside a light discipline environment, under a heavy blanket, deep inside a building, away from windows. You become a digital ghost, navigating by physical landmarks and memorized routes, while the rest of the world stares at dead screens waiting for a signal that isn't coming. Finally, let's address your weapon. You have a knife, maybe a hidden pistol. You feel powerful. You feel like you can defend yourself. The mockery. You are not John Wick. You are an accountant with a piece of steel. The moment you pull a weapon, you escalate every confrontation into a lethal level. You turn a robbery into a murder-suicide. You think flashing a knife will scare people off? In a collapse, desperation overrides fear. If you pull a knife on a starving group, you haven't deterred them. You've just signaled that the fight is now for life or death, not just for your backpack. They will swarm you. They will use bricks, bottles, their sheer numbers. And they will win. The science of violence is messy. It's about adrenaline dumps, fine motor skill loss, and the tooler drill. The fact that an attacker can cover 21 feet before you can draw and fire. In a high-stress situation, your heart rate spikes to 175 plus BPM. Your peripheral vision vanishes, tunnel vision. Your auditory processing shuts down, auditory exclusion. You can't thread a needle, you can barely unzip your jacket. Attempting complex self-defense maneuvers you watched on YouTube is a suicide pact with your own biology. The horror is a slow, agonizing end. You pull your knife. The guy facing you backs off, but his friend behind you smashes a piece of rebar into your kidney. You drop. The adrenaline masks the pain for a moment, but then the shock sets in. You are bleeding internally. There are no ambulances, no surgeons. You die not in a blaze of glory, but shivering in a puddle of dirty water, realizing that your force multiplier was actually just an invitation to violence you couldn't handle. The solution is deselection. The goal is to never need a weapon. It's about posture, awareness, and verbal judo. It's about spotting the ambush 3 blocks away and turning a left. It's about looking like you aren't worth the calories it would take to fight you. If you're forced to fight, it's not a duel. It's unfair, it's dirty, and it's over in 3 seconds. You use improvised weapons, a flashlight strike to the face to blind and disorient, a tactical pen to the throat. You attack the senses, not the body. You blind, you choke, you cripple, and then you run. You don't stand your ground, you create a gap and vanish. The best fight is the one you are not there for. You want to survive the city? Stop trying to conquer it. Stop trying to be the hero. Be the rat. The rat survives not because it is strong, but because it is unnoticed, unappealing, and willing to go where the lions won't. Be the gray man. But remember, gray is the color of concrete, of dust, of nothingness. Become nothing, and you might just live to see something again. Let's talk about your safe house. You have a destination. Maybe it's a cabin in the woods or a relative's house in the suburbs. You have a key, a location, and a plan to get there. You think arrival equals safety. The mockery. You are running toward a cage. A fixed location in a dynamic collapse is a tomb. You think your cabin is secret? It's on Google Earth, it's on tax records, the locals know it's there. And if it's empty, they've already looted it. If it's occupied, you are now a refugee begging for entry. You think your relative's house is safe? It's in a neighborhood that is currently burning. You are trading one trap for another, expending invaluable calories and risk to get to a place that offers no guarantee of resources or security. The science of static defense versus mobile evasion. In a high-entropy environment, chaos, static positions are entropy sinks. They accumulate problems. Waste accumulates, attention accumulates, resources deplete. The second you stop moving, you start dying. The physics of a siege, which is what staying in a house becomes, dictates that the besieger, the mob, the elements, the lack of water, always has the advantage of time. They can wait. You cannot. Your fixed location has a finite caloric value. Once it's gone, you are dead. The horror is the knock at the door. It's not a gang. It's the National Guard, or what's left of it. They are commandeering your safe house for a command post, or it's a family with a sick child begging for water. You refuse. Now you are the monster. They scream. They draw attention. The crowd gathers. Your fortress is now a stage for a morality play, where you are the villain, and the audience is armed and hungry. You are burned out of your sanctuary, and not by enemies, but by the moral friction of collapse. The solution is to be a nomad. Your safe house is wherever you are right now. It is a mindset, not a postcode. It is the ability to sleep in a storm drain, a parked car, a construction site, or a dense thicket of ornamental bushes in a corporate park. It is the skill of stealth camping in an urban environment. You don't need a fortress, you need a bivy sack, and the ability to become invisible for 6 hours at a time. You move at night, you rest during the day in places no one looks because they are liminal spaces, the spaces between the defined uses of a city. The gap behind a billboard. The roof of a commercial freezer unit. The maintenance crawl space of a bridge. You are safe because you are nowhere. Now let's discuss your skills. You know how to start a fire with flint and steel. You know how to tie a bowline knot. You can field strip and AR-15 in 30 seconds. You think you are Jason Bourne. The mockery. Can you pick a lock? Can you hotwire a car? Can you lie to a policeman's face without blinking? Can you suture a wound on a screaming child? Can you haggle for antibiotics in a language you don't speak? Your bushcraft skills are useless in a concrete jungle. You're preparing for Into the Wild, but you are living in Die Hard. Nobody cares if you can build a shelter out of pine boughs when you're trapped on the 4th floor of an apartment complex. The science of social engineering is the only survival skill that matters. We are social primates. Our survival strategy is the group. In a collapse, the group dynamic fractures, but the underlying biological imperative remains. You need to hack that imperative. You need to understand the neuroscience of trust. Trust is a chemical reaction, oxytocin, triggered by specific cues. Eye contact, but not too much. Open palms, shared vulnerability, and mirroring behavior. You need to be able to manipulate these cues consciously. You need to be a con artist for your own life. You need to be able to look a starving man in the eye and convince him that you are on his side, that you can help him, that killing you would be a mistake. The horror is being useful to the wrong people. You reveal you have medical skills. Now you are a slave. You are kept alive only as long as you are useful. You are chained to a radiator in a gang's basement, stitching up knife wounds for food scraps. Your skills didn't save you. They enslaved you. The solution is strategic incompetence. You know how to do everything, but you show you can do nothing. You're the gray man of skills, too. You're just another helpless refugee until the exact moment you need to hotwire that truck to escape. Then, and only then, do you reveal your capability. And once you do, you leave. You never let your utility become a tether. You are a ghost with a Swiss Army knife in your brain, but on the outside, you're just a man trying to find his lost dog. Finally, let's talk about the end game. You think this ends. You think the power comes back on. You think the army rolls in and restores the order. You think you just have to wait it out. The mockery. There is no normal to go back to. Collapse is a phase change, like ice turning to water. You don't go back to being ice. You become something new. The systems that supported your life, the just-in-time supply chains, the fragile electrical grid, the fiat currency, are gone. Waiting for them to return is like waiting for your dead grandmother to come back to life because you kept her room clean. The science of complex systems tells us that when a system collapses, it rarely returns to its previous state. It reorganizes it into a lower energy state, simpler, brutal, local. The new normal is feudalism. It is warlords. It is barter. It is tribalism. The horror is the realization that you are the relic. You are the dinosaur looking at the asteroid impact, waiting for the dust to settle so you can go back to grazing, but the grass is gone, the climate has changed, and the mammals are eating your eggs. You die of nostalgia. You die waiting for a rescue that doesn't exist. The solution is radical acceptance. You stop trying to survive and start trying to live now. You accept the new reality instantly. You don't mourn the old world. You scavenge its bones to build a new one. You become a creature of the collapse. You find a new tribe, not based on your old social status, but on mutual survival value. You become the gray man, not just to escape the city, but to escape the past. You shed your old identity like a dead skin. You're no longer an accountant, a father, a citizen. You're a survivor. And survival is the only law that matters. This is the reality check. The city is a machine that has stopped working. You're a cog that has fallen out. Do not try to put yourself back in. Roll away. Find a new machine or build one yourself. But whatever you do, stop looking at your phone. Stop trusting your bug-out bag. And start looking at the hungry, desperate eyes of the people around you, because they are the environment now. And you are just meat moving through it. Now let's look at the community you plan to build. You have a few buddies, maybe a guy who hunts, a guy who knows first aid, and your brother-in-law who owns a generator. You think you have a survival team. The mockery. You don't have a team, you have a debate club. When the calories drop below 1,500 a day, democracy dies. You think you'll sit around a lantern voting on ration distribution. The first time your hunter friend realizes Keith is starving while you're still rationing the rice, the alliance dissolves. You think you know these people? You know them in a world of air conditioning and full bellies. You don't know who they are when their biology screams that your survival is an impediment to theirs. The science of Dunbar's number and in-group favoritism. Humans can only maintain stable social relationships with about 150 people. In a collapse, that number shrinks drastically, down to the immediate family unit or fire team size, 4 or 5 people. Beyond that, empathy is a luxury you can't afford. But here's the kicker. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, also increases aggression toward outgroups. The tighter your group bonds, the more violent you become toward outsiders. And under extreme stress, your friend will redefine you as an outsider the moment you become a liability. The social contract is not a law of physics. It is a fragile agreement maintained by surplus energy. Remove the energy, food, fuel, and the contract is void. The horror is the betrayal. It's day 14. You're sleeping. Your team decides that the group is too big. The resources are dwindling too fast. They don't kill you. That would be too messy. They just leave. You wake up and the silence is heavier than usual. The generator is gone. The food buckets are gone. Your friends have made a cold, calculated decision that their survival probability increases by 20% if they cut the dead weight. And you are the dead weight. The solution is a benevolent dictatorship or a compartmentalized cell. If you lead, you don't ask, you command. If you follow, you make yourself indispensable. But more importantly, you keep secrets even from your allies. You have a cache that only you know about, a mental map of resources you haven't shared. This isn't selfishness, it's insurance. It ensures that you are never worth more dead than alive. You build trust, yes, but you verify it with leverage. In a collapse, the only true currency is leverage. Let's talk about hygiene. You have a bar of soap and some wet wipes. You think you're covered. You're worried about smelling bad? The mockery. You're worried about social embarrassment. You should be worried about dying of a toothache. In a world without antibiotics, a blister is a death sentence. A cavity is a slow, agonizing execution. You think dirty means needs a shower. No, dirty means a playground for Staphylococcus aureus and Vibrio cholerae, the science of microbial exponential growth. Bacteria reproduce by binary fission. One bacterium becomes 2 in 20 minutes. In 12 hours, that one bacterium can become nearly 70 billion. Your immune system holds the line every day, fueled by clean water and nutrition. Take those away, add stress, cortisol suppresses immune function, and that tiny scratch on your leg from a rusty fence becomes sepsis in 48 hours. The gray man isn't just hiding from people. He's hiding from the microscopic swarm that wants to consume his carbon. The horror is the simple death. You survive the riots, you escape the city, you have food, but you scratch your gums eating a piece of hardtack. An abscess forms. Your face swells on until your eye shuts. The pain is a throbbing, blinding white noise that never stops. You can't eat, you can't sleep. You eventually die of dehydration and systemic infection, whimpering in a fetal position, defeated not by a warlord, but by a mouth bacteria that a $50 trip to the dentist could have fixed. The solution is aggressive preventative maintenance. You don't just brush your teeth, you obsess over them. You treat every scratch like a gunshot wound. You use betadine, you use superglue to seal cuts, you keep your hands away from your face. You learn to make soap from wood ash and animal fat, saponification, because commercially made soap will run out. Hygiene is not about comfort. It is your primary biological defense grid. You are the commander of a fortress called your body. And the enemy is already inside the gates, waiting for you to let your guard down. Finally, the return. You dream of the day the lights come back on. You imagine the relief, the rebuilding, the mockery. The return is a myth. Even if order is restored, it won't be the order you knew. It will be a surveillance state so tight it makes 1984 look like a libertarian paradise. Or it will be a fractured landscape of city-states. The gray man never stops being gray. You don't go back to being a loud, careless consumer. You have seen the beast under the floorboards of civilization. You can never unsee it. The science of epigenetic trauma. Extreme stress changes you at a genetic level. It changes how your genes are expressed. It changes your brain structure, hippocampal atrophy. You will carry the collapse in your cells for the rest of your life. You will teach your children to be quiet, to hide, to hoard. The survival strategy becomes a hereditary trait. The horror is surviving only to realize you're broken. You are sitting in a warm room, years later. Someone drops a plate. You are under the table with a steak knife before the shards hit the floor. Your family looks at you with fear. You survived the city, but you didn't escape it. It followed you home. The solution is to embrace the transformation. Do not aim to go back. Aim to evolve. The gray man is not a temporary costume. It is the next stage of human evolution, in a resource-scarce environment. It is the Homo sapiens who has remembered that he is a predator, a prey, and a ghost all at once. So check your gear and burn your bug-out plan. Look at the city not as a home, but as a hostile organism that is currently sleeping, and when it wakes up hungry, make sure you are the one thing it cannot find, cannot catch, and cannot digest. End of transmission. Good luck. You will need it.